land spoke to my husband and I very profoundly when we found our property and we started restoring it, because it had been overgrazed and it was pretty much a dust bowl, you know. And in the process of walking the land, nurturing the land, reseeding it, it became more and more apparent that the area was calling for us to do different work.
The Sky Islands here are this really incredible mountain archipelago. They connect the Sierra Madre in Mexico to the Colorado Plateau north of us. And so it's the biodiverse landscapes. It's very rare, but we have bear and jaguar in the same mountain range.
The mayor of Yuma is sounding the alarm about an unprecedented surge of migrants flooding their small border town.
Wait, what's going on our southern border? All these people from other countries coming in, that's an invasion.
In Arizona, we will secure our border. We will fight this fight until Washington, D.C. finally acts.
The shipping containers were placed on the U.S.-Mexico border in the Coronado National Forest of the San Rafael Valley, with 10 miles of it in Cochise County and the remainder of where they wanted to build in Santa Cruz County. I think it was a 30-mile stretch, but they only did 3.5 miles within Cochise County.
They looked extremely out of place, kind of like some giant toddler playing Legos, except just a lot more violent than that, because they were covered in barbed wire, which birds were landing on and getting cut on, and they were blocking migration paths of animals, which you could see their footsteps like coming up to the wall and then turning around. And yeah, I mean, it was just heartbreaking.
When you witness the size of the equipment being used, they were just barreling around. I mean, we were drenched in dust.
I mean, the thing with the container walls, it looks fucking stupid. It looked like junk when I arrived and really realized how damaging it was. I started documenting each of the streams it was crossing, and these are the watershed of the San Pedro River, which is one of the most important conservation efforts in the entire Southwest. It's one of the only free-flowing rivers. You know, when you have water in the desert, that's incredibly precious water, and so I knew that these shipping containers would be devastating if they were left there.
In some places, they observed absolutely no skylight at all between the shipping containers, so not even a lizard or anything could get through there. But in other places, there were, because of the geography, there was a lot of space, so there were bobcats and javelina crossing between them.
These really important communities, for instance, there's black bear in these mountains, and for their genetic diversity to stay intact, they really need to be able to mingle with black bear communities on the other side. You know, these are not isolated. There's not American black bears and Mexican black bears. This is one population that needs to connect.
Arizona's top law enforcement officer gives the governor the green light to, quote, engage in a war at the border.
I took an oath to enforce and execute the laws of Arizona.
Governor Ducey's desire to put shipping containers on federal land, first of all, it was not his land. It's, in fact, the public's land.
This is Autumn land, the original Autumn land. No boundaries. The Tohono O'odham Nation is 2.8 million acres. The southernmost part of the border, or the Tohono O'odham Nation, has 62 miles of international border, and there's no human wall in the Tohono O'odham Nation. West of the Ajo mountain range at the end of the Tohono O'odham Nation, there is a human wall in the Oregon Pipe National Monument.
This wall is a desecration of spiritual, of sacred, indigenous land. This wall is illegal. We are going to make this wall fall.
There was a lot of resistance to Trump's wall, mostly women-led, Tohono O'odham. They were dealt with very harshly A lot of that has to do with the government's disrespect for indigenous people historically. The other part is that they were on federal land. It was the federal government was building the wall, and so that made that a slightly different situation.
The governor's actions are unlawful and cannot stand. That's why we are here.
I saw the containers myself November 20th, 2022, and that's when we began to hatch our ideas of direct action. The people that did the direct action on November 29th, there were 12 of us.
And pretty quickly, you know, we just started discussing it, and we said, why don't we just go out there and stand in the road? They're working illegally. These are public lands. We're there legally. Let's just test it and see if we don't get arrested.
I came out here and stood with them, and I went to the media protesting what the state government was doing, and they had been told by the federal government, this is illegal, you can't do this, you can't come and destroy the landscape on federal land, on public land. They kept doing it anyway.
And then we established another campsite, but the contractor said, please don't get in our way, we're moving out the equipment. And so that was the retreat, them actually leaving. They took the last container that they had placed that they were going to put another one on top of. They removed that one. And that was when we knew we had won.
Governor Ducey now agreeing to stop building a wall of those stacked shipping containers. The plan drew critics from environmentalists, Native American tribes, to others who called the whole thing an expensive stunt.
We're opening our circle.
It feels pretty rare to have victories at all. Like, so much of the things that we're resisting and struggling against are such a long process and such a long haul.
Resistance is not futile, and it's contagious. And that's why we're the border wall resistance, and we'll always be here, and we'll probably just percolate up from the ground when the next event arises. The camaraderie, the respect, cross-culturally, it was so wonderful to see people feel the way you do about the land.
This is a win, not only for the people, but a win for the environment, a win for the animals and the wildlife in the region.
You have to go back to the Berlin Wall to see popular pressure getting a border to come down. And that 150 or so people who went out to the desert and stood in the way of some earth movers actually got a government to take down a border wall is a monumental win.
My hope is that all of this border wall here will be torn down someday. I mean, just like the Berlin Wall, it'll be seen for what it is, which is just a big waste of money that separates communities, separates the landscape, you know, is detrimental to wildlife.
So let's show up. Let's make our voices known. Don't be intimidated. Don't be scared. Never think you can't make a difference. You just have to keep showing up and speaking out.
Kayo na ko kanyo nyoy wa ma juda kayo da kanyo nyoy chuma wi hemaka gonya sa se cho hai wo samo bai hemada kayo na ko kanyo nyoy wa ma juda